One of the lesser-known controversial topics is whether or not restaurants in America should offer gluten-free options. Whether it's dining in or going through a drive-thru, Americans spend a lot of their time and money on the food service industry. What often goes unnoticed, however, is the 1% of Americans who suffer from celiac disease or other gluten intolerances. Due to the fact that a great sum of people are uninformed about gluten and celiac disease, it's not surprising that many restaurants lack gluten-free options on their menus. Consequently, people with gluten intolerances such as celiac disease are often unable to eat out because there are little to no food places with dietary accommodations nearby. The lack of compromise time and time again leads to feelings of discrimination among the gluten-free community. Regulations should be put in place in order for people with gluten-free diets to have equality due to the fact that celiac disease is considered a disability and should be treated as such. For those of you wondering what gluten is, you're not alone. Gluten is a protein found in wheat, barley, rye, and other grains commonly found in basic foods. Celiac disease is a disorder which results in an immune reaction to anything containing gluten. There are many misconceptions about celiac disease, and one of them being that the only symptom of it is a stomachache. Abdominal pain is one of the main symptoms of celiac disease, but it's far from the only one. Other symptoms include anemia, osteoporosis, fatigue, bloating, destruction of the small intestinal wall, and other symptoms, according to the Harvard Women's Health Watch. The small intestinal wall is lined with these small hair-like structures called villi. A healthy person's villi are very strong in absorbing nutrients into the bloodstream, which helps them to maintain homeostasis in the body. However, a person suffering from celiac disease has very inadequate villi and are unable to obtain nutrients properly. If a person with celiac disease were to consume gluten, their villi would be extremely obstructed and sometimes completely destroyed, which could prove to be life-threatening. In order to maintain a healthy lifestyle and a healthy small intestine, celiac disease patients must follow an extremely strict gluten-free diet. Gluten is in pasta, cookies, pizza dough, chicken tenders, and just about anything that's fried or baked. The Americans with Disabilities Act doesn't have any rules or regulations that require restaurants to provide gluten-free options for those suffering from dietary restrictions. It states an act in the Americans with Disabilities Act, Title III, Section 36.307, it says, quote, "The rule does not require a public accommodation to alter its inventory to include accessible or special goods with accessibility features that are designed for or facilitate use by individuals with disabilities," end quote. This means that anybody with dietary restrictions won't be accommodated for. J. Hooker, lawyer and husband of a celiac disease victim, published a law review over the discrimination in restaurants commonly faced by people suffering from celiac disease. Hooker explains how, in order to avoid lawsuits, dining places frequently put disclaimers on their menus declaring that their food cannot be guaranteed to be safe for gluten-free individuals due to potential cross-contamination within the kitchen. He then elucidates, this would be similar to a restaurant having a wheelchair ramp with a sign posted at the foot of the ramp stating that the restaurant cannot guarantee the structural integrity of the ramp, so use at your own risk. The burden of restaurants not offering gluten-free options is difficult to deal with, but being able to afford gluten-free food is an even greater albatross. In a 2016 study, researchers found that gluten-free basic food is 42% less available than gluten-containing basic food, and 3 times more expensive, according to Estevez et al. Not only is gluten-free food more expensive and unattainable, but the protein content is also 69% lower than regular gluten-containing food. Celiac disease patients are already unable to properly absorb nutrients needed to maintain healthy lives, as shown in Figure 1. The foods that are available to them are lacking in proper nourishment. This is not only in America, but all around the world. In Italy, the government has provided funding for gluten-free meal distributions in schools, hospitals, and other public canteens, as well as funding to train chefs on how to safely and effectively prepare gluten-free meals, according to Tamburo et al. The Italian law requires that public facilities serving food must have gluten-free options for those who request it. So what's the solution? The ADA should provide a law that requires restaurants to not only offer gluten-free options, but to be properly educated in how to prepare gluten-free foods. Italy has proved that it is feasible to achieve fairness and indiscrimination towards individuals with a gluten-free diet. The opposition to this may be that restaurants are opposed to the increase in cost, time, and effort, or the potential opposition of governmental spending. But a person should not have to feel alienated for having a dietary restriction, yet thousands of Americans do because of the lack of regulations in kitchens across the nation. It's time to make a change in America and end the inequity faced by celiac disease victims every day.